Hey there, everybody. Matt Carter here.
And Jessica Carter from CARTERMATT.com.
This video is our latest This Is Us Season 4 theory discussion, and we're going to be taking a look at the reasonably near future of This Is Us. We're not dealing with Tuesday's episode in this video. We're kind of taking a peek slightly beyond that, kind of like the show, taking a look slightly beyond where we are right now to the birthday party. But this is all about the cabin, because the cabin is the title of Season 4, Episode 14, and it'll be airing a little bit later this month, and I think all of us know already the cabin holds a great deal of emotional significance to the Pearson family.
Yeah, which makes sense because their home has been burnt to the ground. They don't have that to be able to go back to, and so the cabin is really the one structure that they do have that they can go back.
And it feels almost as though the cabin is going to be the site of a few different majorly significant events coming up in this episode potentially, and we're going to take a look at it both in the past, the present, and then also the near future, just so we can kind of get our heads around all the stuff that could happen there, why it's going to be so important, and also, I mean, could there eventually be so much bad stuff that kind of happens there that they may not want to go back to it anymore?
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that with the whole MARC situation.
Yeah, I'm worried about the MARC situation. I'm worried about fighting that could just happen because of what's going on in the present. There's a lot of stuff to kind of work through here. Before we dive in, though, if you do like this discussion, give us a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other updates. Let's start, though, with the past. Because right now what we know, and this is entering episode 13, is that it seems as though Kate and Mark are going to try to run away to the cabin. And this, I guess, could be explored on episode 13 on Tuesday, but maybe they'll save part of it for this episode because it is entitled The Cabin. Why would you want to get all that stuff with the cabin out of the way before you get to the episode?
Yeah, I think we're going to have some stuff with Kate and Mark obviously going on with the cabin, but it may be more about what happens either on their way to the cabin or away from the cabin, that it's more about sort of the real meat of what is going on with Mark, because we've had enough hints to know that Mark is not a good dude.
Yeah.
That there's something that is going on there. He's kind of talking down to Kate, putting her down a bit. We don't know how much deeper that's going or how much that's changing her or shaping her going forward. Feels like this next episode is going to be a lot more about really getting to know what happened with Mark. But we may not get everything about what happened in the cabin if they made it to the cabin until the next episode.
Yeah, I think maybe this is just going to be almost... I know this Kate episode is like the third part of a trilogy.
It is.
But it might also be kind of the first part of a two-parter if they sort of have Tuesday be the lead-up to the cabin, and then the cabin episode itself is about what happens around there with Kate and Mark. It's just interesting that she would want Mark around the cabin. I mean, she's probably not thinking clearly, because we know Jack would not be the biggest fan in the world of Mark. Jack wouldn't want Mark at that cabin.
No, he wouldn't want Mark at that cabin, but at the same time, Jack is not there, and she's trying to move in a different direction with sort of her first real boyfriend, who is not great.
No.
But she's fallen into sort of this trap where she's invested so much into him, and he is dragging her down a bit, and she's not seeing what's happening, and at that point, you're kind of in too deep. So maybe she's thinking, oh, the cabin can be a place that we can reconnect, or I can share more of my family, or we can build our relationship, or maybe he'll be less of a jerk up there because maybe it can be a romantic getaway. It's out in the middle of nowhere and we can be together and grow our relationship, and it just goes sideways. I think that the actual cabin episode is going to be more of a bunch of different timelines of things that are happening, so that we may see way back in the day with the kids and Jack at the cabin. We may see a little bit more of Kate and Mark at the cabin. Then we may see what's going on at the birthday at the cabin where, Randall's not there. And then we may see what's going on sort of in the present with the big three meeting at the cabin.
Well, I think with Kate and Mark, the biggest thing that I can just sort of imagine is this may be where the breaking point of the relationship happens. You see the other big three members try to come together to help her, and while, it's a rebellious act on some ways, Kate going there, it still shows that, okay, she's not trying to just pull herself away from the family entirely, because they know where the cabin is.
Yes.
It's not like she's running away to some motel or someplace that's going to be hard to find her. Let's move, though, into that present-day timeline you just alluded to, because the synopsis for this episode, it hasn't given away much, but it does say in there that the big three are going to reconnect there, and because we know that Randall is not present in the near future at the birthday party, I think it's fairly clear to feel like, okay, this is going to take place probably just after what happens in this trilogy. They've all had their really difficult weeks. They all get back together. Seems great in theory, but then you remember, oh no, there's a lot of really important and kind of serious stuff they got to talk about.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried that this is going to be where sort of the big fallout is going to happen. And it may happen a little bit later than that, but I mean, Randall's holding on to a really big secret, which is that their mom is deteriorating and things are going really sideways. He hasn't told anybody else. She's asked him not to. And I get why she's asked him not to, but I'm a bit surprised that he isn't just going to say, listen, this is not something that you can sit on. All your kids have to know. Now that I'm good with it until we got the results. Now we have the results. Now everybody needs to be looped in. Like, it can't be something that's kept. Because this is the sort of information with their mom losing her memory. This is time you can never get back. Once it's gone, and she forgets who everyone is. It's gone. This is kind of, everything is forgivable.
Yeah.
So when I say this, that it's an unforgivable act, everything is forgivable, and there is ways to work through things. But this is one of the more unforgivable type acts. Taking time away from a child and their mother, or an adult child and their mother. So I'm kind of thinking that this is where some of that is going to come out, that Randall is going to tell them what's happening. Kevin never handles anything well. I think he's going to take it a lot more personally than maybe the rest of them. He just deals with things so differently than the other two. So I can see that being where it's going to happen. It's going to be the big fallout.
I'm going to shoot my shot here. I think for sure this is where it's going to happen. I think you can't... The longer Randall's secret is kept, the worse it's going to be. And I think if we want to have really any hope that they can eventually get past this, I think it needs to come out sooner rather than later. And also, I don't really want this to hang over the rest of the season, like just the secret part of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is it depends on the timeline. Like, if it was... Randall and Miguel found out about what was going on with Rebecca within, say, a week. And they got the test results within a week or 2 weeks. And then Randall went and told Kate and Kevin, said, listen, this was going on. Yes, I didn't tell you about this part. Mom asked me not to. I wanted to wait until I had something to tell you. We didn't actually know. Now we have the results. Now I'm telling you. That doesn't feel as unforgivable as if it goes on for a long time, where it's, we didn't know what was going on. Then we got the results. Then we knew what was going on, and then we still didn't tell you. That's where the line gets really fuzzy, where if I was on the receiving end of that, if I was a Kevin or a Kate, I'd be insanely mad, like beyond mad, because every day that goes by that Rebecca loses her memory, that is a moment that is now lost for me forever.
I just feel like there's something else here that we don't know about. And it's not that it's not that I disagree with you. I do think that this is enough to sever Kevin and Randall's relationship, but it just feels like it is so insanely obvious that is the sort of thing that's going to happen, and I'm sure it is going to happen. I feel like there's going to be something else that transpires, and maybe Kevin does something that really infuriates Randall, because right now it seems like this sort of estrangement is very one-sided, where it's like, okay, Randall did this, and that's the cause of everything, because it also just feels like Randall, he's just not the sort of person to me that would, not apologize or not try to make things right or something like that. And it feels more almost like an impasse in that flash forward to the near future. So I feel like there's something else.
I just feel with something like this that there is no way to make this better. You can't give back time. Time is the most valuable thing that any human really has. And time with someone who's losing their memory. My grandmother has Alzheimer's, so it's something that I know very deeply. She's at a point now that she doesn't even know who I am. So if something like that happened to me, and that's something you can't ever give that back, and it is just lost forever. So the thing about it is like, yes, it is the obvious thing. I agree. But at the same time, the way that This Is Us tells stories, that it can still be told in a way that doesn't have to be shocking, or surprise us, but can be done in a way that just touches us or angers us or brings out things in a way that only This Is Us can do. Because This Is Us isn't only about those shocking moments. It is also about how they tell those moments.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be a surprise in how it comes out. Maybe it's possible that Kevin finds out about it in a way that's not from Randall, and that could be the other thing that kind of sparks it off to another level. I just think there's got to be...
That would be bad.
Yeah, I think there's just got to be like that one other thing that makes it really bad, because the longer the estrangement goes with Randall, then he's also, losing time that he'll never get back with his brother. It's not the same situation because of what you just described, but let's get into the near future now, because it seems as though the site of this birthday party is the cabin. That seems to be based on what we saw at the end of the fall finale. It also seems as though, I don't know if Kevin is living there full time, but it seems as though Kevin and his fiance are there.
Yeah.
The reason that's interesting especially is I'm trying to think about geography in my head, and it's difficult for This Is Us because I've never lived in Pennsylvania, so I don't know the approximate distances from various places, but we know that Sophie is back east, and, it wouldn't be that far away from, at least, she could drive to the location of the cabin, presumably. And we also know that Cassidy is also in Bradford, so, Sophie's not in Bradford, but, they're both at a place in which they could conceivably be at the cabin and still be kind of close to a lot of the people that they know. So, it's possible that this is really pointing to one of them being the fiance, but also maybe not. It's just interesting because Kevin has been out working, not exactly close, then now all of a sudden at this birthday party, here's Kevin back there. Here is Rebecca back there.
Yep.
That part of it is so curious because Randall is technically the one who would be geographically closest to the cabin, and he's the one who's not there.
Yeah, and that's why if whatever has happened between them, it's got to be pretty serious for him not to be invited or not to be there or choose not to be there. But there's a lot of mysteries that are still sitting around that cabin. Obviously, we still don't know who the fiance is, and I've seen some people online saying that it definitely isn't Sophie, because if it was, then Kevin wouldn't be calling her his fiance, he'd be calling her Sophie.
Yeah.
But I don't fall into that camp, because This Is Us specifically put that word in there to make sure that we don't know who it is.
Yeah, I think that's just deliberately to try to throw us off on some level. And I didn't even mention this in the present that, I'm assuming that the conversation about Kevin and Madison has to come up eventually.
Absolutely.
With Kate. I think she won't be happy about it, but I think she'll get over it.
Yeah, that's not anything that's going to turn into, couldn't ever see that turning into a problem. I think that's more of a Kate being like, I saw that coming. Yeah,
the only case I guess you could make with Madison at the cabin is maybe it would make it even more of like a community gathering, because it would be like, Kate wants to be around her brother, but maybe Kate also wants to be around Madison because Madison is her friend.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a component to it. So I think the biggest thing we can say here, there's a lot of important stuff with the cabin that is coming up. And I think this is a good time to hear your thoughts on a lot of this. What do you think is going to happen with the cabin? And also, let's just say hypothetically, this is where the secret comes out about Rebecca. in between losing Jack, I know Jack didn't die at the cabin, but losing Jack, whatever this fight could be between the big three, the MARC incident, like, are you surprised that Kevin would still want to be at the cabin in the future? It's a lot of dark memories. But let us know in the comments, and if you do like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and you can support us further by checking the link in the description to the CARTERMATT store. And we'll see you here next time.